Good day, dear guests and viewers from that side of the monitor. Today we have our presentation of the social educational platform. I would like to mention that this is the first platform for a systematical education of representatives of self-government local authorities. Social Academic Gov.ua. You can see this on your monitors, on your screens. I've tested it personally today. You can register there and you can start your education. In the next 2 months, this website will be working in a test mode. So be careful, and all issues that will arise will be settled down by specialists. This project was created by the Search Project for Communities. Today we have a day of self-government authorities, and this day must be effective. I would like to introduce our guests. What is the task? The first task is to provide materials for people at the local level. This will be done in a distance, and this will improve the quality of services to be provided. All questions that will arise today around this resource we will discuss with our guests. Oksana Zholnovich, Minister of Social Policy of Ukraine. Ashley Mulroney is going to join us from the Embassy of Canada in Ukraine. Tanya Sanford Amar, Director of the Support to Ukraine's Reform for Governance Project, Surge. Katerina Novokhatnya, Team Leader of the Child Rights Protection Reform Initiative, Surge, and Yaroslav Royko, Mayor of the city of Veliki Mosty from the Lviv region. I would like to mention that our meeting is mixed. Some guests, some participants are present here, and some of them will join us. I call all our viewers to use the link, because it will be important for all specialists working in the social sphere. We have many challenges today, and social services are also changing and transforming. The flat platform of social education is highly needed today. Why? Could you explain us? I would like to to greet all the representatives of the self-government authorities. I think that it is communities that create the people's life. The people live in communities, and it is self-government bodies that should help people on the local level, and this is very important to know what mechanisms are to be used. And I wish you inspiration. I wish you to be hard, and each day you should improve yourself and to develop yourself for our state and for our victory. I would like to thank to the Search Project. This project supports our reforms, our social sphere, And it is very important that we've created such a resource as social education platform, and I hope that this initiative will be developing also in the future. The war in Ukraine has made everything very acute, and the fact that we can feel your support is a very important moral factor for us, and it allows us to look in the future with hope. And our team tries to pay attention to social services. It is very important to transform the understanding of the social policy as such. When the whole time period from the time of our independence, the social policy was used to be seen as a number of social payments, but now we have another concept. There are many psychological factors that are very important today. If people need evacuation, they need psychological help, they need support, they need transport. This is a service in a extreme mood, and it is very complicated to deal something without such services. Volunteers received money to buy to buy food for people in extreme situations. It is very important to work to support people on the level of communities. A philosophy of social support must be developed there, and a new direction in the development of social policy must be given. Not all specialists understand how they should work under current circumstances, under war conditions. Many rules are broken, and many people are in different locations, and it is not always clear how an offline education can be organized. And this platform allows us to develop at any time, which is good for specialists. The social education platforms supports us. There are two key programs on this platform. We will get more platforms, more educational programs. We will be working on this, and we call specialists to publish their materials on our portal. And there are many mechanisms that specialists can learn these materials on the platform. We have many social workers and other specialists, other workers in the social sphere. That is a great amount of workers, and they must develop their qualifications during their life, and I call them to use this resource, and the people that use these services can use this resource too. It can be useful for a large number of people. So pay attention that today we need specialists in the social sphere, and this can be your chance to receive a new job, to develop, to receive money, to help uh, other people to get new chances in their life. So I call to add your training materials to our platform. Thank you very much. So I offer to continue our discussion and to learn this platform more. And I would like to emphasize on our partners. I'm talking about Canada, which helps us to in implementing our reforms. The government of Canada has expertly, financially, and organizationally helped in creating this platform. So Ashley Mulroney is with us from the Embassy of Canada. Why has the government of Canada decided to support this project?
Are you able to hear me okay? Okay, good. We were having some issues with sound earlier.
Чуємо вас дуже добре.
We hear you very well.
So let me just start off by congratulating the Minister of Social Policy, your whole team, and the SURGE project on your successful collaboration and cooperation, specifically on the launch today of the online platform on social education. Canada has supported this project called SURGE since 2019, and the Ministry of Social Policy has been an important partner for us on numerous efforts with this project. I want to speak, first of all, about the unprecedented challenges caused by Russia's illegal invasion and how they make the work of local governments particularly important as you work to respond to the rapidly evolving needs in communities. There is no question in my mind that social education and social work are important in Ukraine, especially at this crucial time. Canada is really pleased that we can assist to provide Ukraine with additional support to local governments so that as you work to build the social service system for Ukraine through this initiative. The social education portal will provide support to local governments and will assist you to continue to build a social service system in Ukraine. We, again, recognize that this is a very challenging time for local governments, both because of limited human resources and gaps that you're experiencing because of the full-scale invasion by Russia, but also because there are many regulations that need to be fully understood in order for social services to be provided effectively at the local level. This portal, the social education portal, will support important learning in this process. The platform is designed to host online courses that will provide clear, easily understood, and relevant learning materials. As well, in the area of professional development, the platform has the potential to become a convenient instrument to communicate about and to clarify changes in legislation, government decisions, and other relevant tools. So all that to say that we're very pleased to be supporting the tool and happy to be here with you today.
Пані Ашлі,
Miss Ashley, we would like to speak about the inclusivity in the social policy. Canada is known about the exclusivity of its social policy. How should it be implemented here? Or what should our Ukrainian communities do in this way?
We are very proud indeed of our feminist foreign policy and our feminist international assistance policy. And in our work to support feminism abroad and a feminist approach, we recognize that supporting gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls is the best way to build a more peaceful and prosperous world, but also the best way to achieve positive economic and social outcomes for all members of society. Through our international assistance, we help to protect and promote the human rights of all vulnerable and marginalized groups and work to increase their participation in decision-making. We believe that when you give women and girls equal opportunities, they can transform their local economies and generate growth that benefits entire communities and countries. So in Ukraine, that means that we have been working to ensure that gender equality and inclusion underpin all reform efforts and Ukraine's recovery from the war. When we talk about inclusive communities in Canada, we're referring to communities that recognize that there are barriers that can prevent some population groups from participating in or benefiting from government initiatives or services. So in Canada, we believe that government has a critical role to play in addressing these barriers and ensuring that diverse voices are engaged in decision-making and service provision. These voices ideally should include civil society and women's rights organizations and others at all levels of government and all levels of society. That's how in Canada we believe we build inclusive societies. An inclusive government makes decisions that reflect diverse perspectives, and it serves the needs of all of its community members. An inclusive government also recognizes and removes barriers to equal decision-making, community resources, and economic opportunities by giving consideration, for example, to childcare services, to access ramps for wheelchairs, or to the need for sign language for people who may have hearing difficulties, to name a few important issues. So through initiatives that we fund in Ukraine, including this project with Surge and the Ministry of Social Policy, we will continue to support local governments to introduce inclusive practices and build communities that care for all members of society, with a particular focus on the most vulnerable. Canada hopes that this online platform being presented today will become a valuable resource for local communities and service providers to draw from a greater diversity of knowledge, which in turn will allow for more effective local programs and policies and will allow all members of society to thrive. Thank you.
Пані Ашлі, навіть не сумніваюся в цьому. Дякуємо за те, що ви долучилися.
I have no doubts here. Thank you very much that you joined us today, and I hope that other speakers will tell us their opinions. How effective can specialists receive knowledge on this platform? And this question is for Ms. Stenia. How much are Ukrainian communities oriented to protect children on the local level?
Thank you, Alina. And I also want to check that everything is okay in terms of sound. As I'm speaking, you can hear me? We're good? Okay. First of all, sorry, are we okay with sound?
Пані Таня, так, ми і чуємо, і...
Tanya, the sound is good. We can see you, we can hear you, not a problem. Yeah, please.
Thank you. First of all, before I get to your question, if I could just give some greetings from Alina International. We've been implementing projects in Ukraine for almost 14 years with the support of Global Affairs Canada, for which we are much grateful. And I personally have been living in Ukraine for the duration of that time. And sometimes I get asked, why are you in Ukraine for so long? And there's lots of reasons, lots of good reasons for being in Ukraine for that period of time. But one of them is because Ukraine is a very dynamic country. It's changing, it's developing constantly. And from a professional perspective, as well as a personal, it's a pleasure to watch and to be part of that. And I think it's very indicative, it is very typical of Ukraine that we are here today in the most challenging of circumstances, but we're launching something new. And I think that is one of the most impressive things about Ukraine, your ability to continue to develop and evolve, even amidst the most pressing of challenges. And I wanted to say that I admire you all for that, and remain very inspired by all of that. Minister, I would like to thank you and your team for all of the efforts and the partnership you have put into this resource with us as well. It is incredibly important that we have worked on that together, and I think that we've achieved a really great result. And I hope that the little bit that we're doing in partnership with you is encouraging, and yet another sign that we're with you, we support you, and we support Ukraine. So going back to the question that you gave me, Olena, on the issue of child protection in communities, I think we've been looking at these issues for a long time, and pre-war it was an encouraging situation. As I say, it was a dynamic situation where government was investing much more in children and in families. We were seeing really good amounts of state funding that was going into things like inclusive education for the first time. We were seeing improvement of access to services across the country. Legislatively, we are in a good place. We have a law on social services, which is a really good foundational document that reflects international best practices, that expands the list of services that people have access to, that provides opportunities to link in civil society as service providers. These are all really, really great pieces, and I think a great foundation. Of course, we all understand that we have more challenges now. There's more vulnerable people in Ukraine than there's ever been. The numbers are so much more than we would have ever expected. So when we look at the challenges, I won't go through all the challenges we have right now, but specifically regarding our approach to service delivery in communities, I think that the challenge, as always, is implementation. We've got great documents, we've got great models. It's trying to ensure that there's equal access to a menu of services, a variety of services that serves the variety of needs for children and families where they are in their communities. And that's really a community delivery piece that needs to happen. And we think that this is incredibly important because we understand that the lack of community services has a huge impact on what happens to children, and specifically whether they are put into institutions or they remain with their families. So I think everybody knows here that Ukraine has a high rate of full-time institutionalization of children. So children live in institutions at a higher rate in Ukraine than in many other countries. And it's a particularly interesting scenario because most of these children have parents. And we did a study in 2021, just before the war, looking at what was driving this from a family perspective, from a client perspective. And there are those factors that all of us would expect. So we would expect to see in terms of parents' ability to care for their children. You know, we have issues around poverty, unemployment, sometimes issues with the parents themselves in terms of addictions, substance abuse. But the main driver was the presence of a disability with the child and a corresponding lack of social services in the communities. So when we see a child with some sort of physical or mental disability, there are not the services in the community. And we understand that what happens is that children are most of the time institutionalized. That's a huge issue because we understand also that children that are institutionalized for their childhood do not thrive, do not develop, and are not successful when they get out of institutions. In fact, the number of children that are successful is just under 10%. And the rest of those, that 90%, who do not live successful lives after institutions, suffer really horrible effects. We see high rates of suicide, we see high rates of criminality, and people that just cannot lead self-sufficient, successful lives. So really, really difficult. And we also understand that many of them go on to have children that are also institutionalized. So you have this cycle that can continue for generations. Now, I want to be clear too that I'm not saying that this is the fault of social workers. I want to be very, very clear. Social workers work within a system, within a framework, with the tools and the approaches they have. And what I am saying is that it makes a lot of sense when you are faced with a family that is in crisis, that has a child with a disability, and you don't have the services in the community, but you have an institution. You're going to choose a solution, even if you know it's not the best one. But if you don't have other tools at your disposal, it seems irresponsible. It seems not the right thing to do. Nothing. You're gonna hope that they'll get some sort of assistance if they're put into an institution. And so we believe that the really big issue here that communities need to pay attention to, that the Ukrainian government needs to pay attention to, is the fact that the primary tool in 2022 that social workers have is still putting children into an institution. And this is because 60 years ago or so, there was a choice to invest in institutions. And I think we can all agree that the government at that time does not reflect the principles of Ukraine today. And I think that at this point, it is time for us to understand that a different choice has to be made. The choice of 60 years ago to invest in institutions is no longer valid, but the choice is really to invest in social services that are in communities that really reflect the principles, the vision that we have for Ukraine today.
Пані Таня, дякую вам.
Tanya, thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. And allow me to add something to what you mentioned. In the future, when Ukraine wins in this war, we want less and less children to be institutionalized. We want those kids to be raised in families with the help of their communities. We've been talking a lot about the resources. We've been talking about the webpage a lot. So it's time to officially present it. And the Ministry of Social Policy and the Search Project has spent about a year working on that. And at least 10 months they've been working on it. And I think that people are already eager to learn about this platform. And the key thing that happened about this platform is as follows. We create communities which are friendly to children and caring about each and every resident of that community. Now, please, let's begin the presentation. Pay attention to the screen. Now we are talking about a new resource which was created for a wide range of experts in social sector and territorial communities, because with this resource you can get all the important knowledge about human rights and social work, and how to organize provision of social services at the community level, how to fight domestic violence and human trafficking, and how to learn about many other important issues. You can see how life drastically have changed because of the pandemic and now because of the full-scale invasions. Remote learning has become that optimal opportunity to gain the necessary knowledge. This platform is offering access to online courses and materials provided by the Ministry of Social Policy. It's important to mention as well that all those materials are based on successful international and domestic practices. There is a flexible schedule. At the end, when you graduate, you get a certificate. And please remember that this is an all-inclusive website. There is a special button that can convert the text and the pictures into black and white, Q. So this is very important for people with who are visually impaired. Now, this platform is very easy to use. All the information is put into different sections and pages. We have a list of courses, which is accessible through different pages, and the number of courses will increase in time. So we advise you to stay tuned and check for updates. Before you begin learning, you need to register on the website. There are several stages that are mandatory for you to get access to the content posted on the platform. After you complete your registration, you then will be able to use your own account. And in your account, you can find all the names of the courses which you have selected. Then you can always resume your training in a given course. You can take tests, you can track your progress, and you can download your certificates that confirm successful completion of training. Now, please, let's have a look at the announcements page. This is where you can have announcements about the upcoming courses and training establishments, which the ministry is opening for the experts in social sector and different line NGOs. On this platform, there are different guidelines, research, videos, podcasts, and many more. You can also open the library page, and you can look through all the materials and information contained there. If you fail to find some information on the topic which you're interested in, you can take part in a survey. And your responses will help the ministry to fill in this platform with the training materials which are in most demand among the experts. Now, if you have more questions about the platform, please familiarize yourselves with the rules for using this website at the bottom of the web page. Also here you can find a share function. You can choose a messenger, a social network, and share a link to the platform with your colleagues. So please use it, learn more about social education. And we create friendly communities, friendly for children and caring for every resident in this community. Well, after we've watched this video, now I have an impression that things look quite simple, easy to understand, accessible, ready to use. But of course, there are people behind projects like this. And someone said that it took 10 months to complete this project. And now with us, we have someone who directly participated in the development of this project from the scratch. We have Katerina Novokhatnya with us, who is the head of the search project. And before we ask you about this webpage, I want to congratulate you on the successful launch of your webpage, of your portal, and hopefully you will be able to come closer to the communities, to the residents in those communities, and help them as much as you can in the times of war. Now, please tell us more about the courses. What do you have on that platform, and what kind of experts are the target audience? Good afternoon, dear participants, Alina, dear viewers who were able to join our online broadcast. And allow me to also send my greetings to the ministry. And we are doing all this for the communities. So because of that, I want to also congratulate on the occasion the experts working in the social departments at the municipal level and everyone involved. We truly believe that this platform will become the key resource where the community can get verified information, the knowledge for day-to-day work in terms of protecting rights of children, provision of social services, and many other types of assistance which Ukrainian citizens need. Now let's get back to your question. Right now on the platform, there are 2 online courses, and these courses have been designed by the Search project in close cooperation with the experts in the Ministry of Social Policy. The first course is about the overall cycle of provision of social services. It talks about the definition, identifying the needs in social services, which services are needed for a specific community, then planning of service provision, funding of service provision, and monitoring implementation. So we understand that when you go through this cycle for the first time and you plan for a midterm perspective, that could be a challenge for the community because that's a new thing. New things usually are scary, right, to undertake. So we're trying to make this course as much practical as possible, and the communities can find lots of practical advice, how to pass through the cycle, how to plan with all the standard operating procedures and all of the advice. We have tested all of the approaches, and the communities can learn from those approaches. There are 5 territorial communities who helped us in Lviv Oblast. They are the community partners. They took part in the testing. They were giving feedback, they were giving advice, suggestions, and as a result of that cooperation, we were able to pass this path from the idea, from the concept, down to actually planning services for communities. And allow me to mention those communities: Rudkivska, Kamenka-Buzka, Velkomostivska, Zabutivska, and those are the territorial communities that helped us, and Gnezdichevska as well. So I sincerely thank them for cooperation, because of that, because of their help, we can now develop these beautiful products which can be the guiding post for other communities as well. Now, speaking about the target audiences of the course, the range of experts who are the target audience is quite wide, because we are talking about social services and social service provision, and it's a comprehensive approach. In this case, when we talk about planning, not just local social protection departments need to be on board. Other stakeholders from the community need to be around that table as well, people who understand the challenges at the local level. We are talking about local health departments, education, police, civil society organizations, who usually become advocates for the local residents. They help to address some social problems for the most vulnerable people residing in the community. Therefore, we are calling upon all the stakeholders to please participate in these courses, learn from them, and step up interagency cooperation and create the community by joining the efforts, which is sensitive to the needs of the people. Now, let me tell you about the second course, which is also available on the platform, and it is super important because this course is talking about organizing provision of social services in the times of crisis. What do we mean? Crisis or emergency? We mean services that can be provided to families or individuals 24 hours after the application, and it's very important in the times of war because very many citizens of Ukraine with children, they ended up in hardships. They had to be displaced. They had to find a new place to live. In a new place where they now live, it's very hard to satisfy all the basic needs of the family. It's very hard to find a good place for those children to get education and training. And also there is the emotional component to that, which is very difficult. So this online course actually explains the features of service provision to people like that, people who require help immediately right now, something that would help people get assistance.
Людини, да, і враховуючи вже стан, спланувати ту необхідну роботу і підтримку. Тому ми також закликаємо вже реєструватися на платформі, да, обирати цей курс і проходити, і організовувати цю роботу в своїй громаді.
На що слід звернути увагу громадам? Ви назвали пілотні проекти, так, Львівщина, там вони були реалізовані. Які, можливо, поради ви дасте, виходячи з того, що ви вже побачили?
Ну, хочу зазначити, що я про це вже говорила, що коли проходиш перший раз цей цикл організації надання соціальних послуг в територіальній громаді в середньостроковій перспективі, це може бути певним досвідом і викликом для громад. Тому тут важливо, щоб громади сприймали цей комплексний шлях так, як можливість краще пізнати свою громаду, можливість краще дослідити ті соціальні проблеми, які є в вашій громаді, можливість налагодити міжвідомчу взаємодію і вже спільними зусиллями з іншими суб'єктами, які також є в громаді, і реагувати на ті виклики, які є в вашій громаді. Також хочу зазначити, що не дивлячись на ті проблеми, які громада має зараз вирішити в своїй громаді, для того, щоб підтримати мешканців, ми знаємо, що дуже багато ідей інвестування саме і забезпечення інфраструктури, є певні моменти, де громади мають реагувати, є певні економічні питання, де громада має також реагувати. Тим не менше, я звертаюся з громадами з проханнями все ж таки інвестувати і в розвиток соціальних послуг, і ставитися до розвитку соціальних послуг.
I call communities to invest in social services. Investing in social services, we invest in well-being of communities. We invest in all people living in these communities. But in every community has its needs. But how can we assess which needs does a community have? We have laws in Ukraine, basic social services should be provided, and these services must be accessible on communities level, and it is very important for communities to make an opportunity to use these services for the people. It is very important to determine which services are the most important for your communities. To help communities do this, the Ministry of Social Policy has developed a special procedure. We participated in the development of this procedure. It is based on statistical and other analytical materials. And we heard from people about different barriers that hinder them to get access to social services. And communities must react on the needs of their people. It must be emphasized that this procedure works, and we can see better changes in the people's life if we are following this approach. It can be the inclusive education, but it can be hard for a family to solve such situations. So the transportation to educational institutions must be organized. Probably a family needs social support so that the parents could know how to educate their children, and there is a support for families, and every family can make use of this support. And all these issues must be recognized by the preparation of social services. We heard that this course is based on experiences of communities from Lviv region, and now we have Mr. Yaroslav from the Lviv region, from the Veliki Mist city territorial community. We would like to know your experience. What was for you important while organizing the social services in your communities? I would like to thank to the project. We began this work with the assessment of the needs for providing social services. We started this initiative seeing experiences from our neighbor community, and we started this initiative after our community was created. Miss Katerina was in our community, and she shared her experience with us, and we assessed the population's groups, and this was a process, and we assessed how many children we have, for example, children with disabilities that need social services, which problems women and men have. And this was a large-scale process, and we managed to embrace all the population's groups and other issues. We met with the time. We saw that UNRWA system began to function better, and the mechanism began to work better. It helped us, and I thank yesterday to the head of our police. So it is important that a policeman comes together with a social worker. This is not about children, but more about women and men, how, for example, men behave themselves towards women. And this initiative has a positive impact on resolving such situations. And I liked Poland's experience, how they deliver their social policy. I learned their experiences and practices in Poland, and they are very careful with people of older ages and with children with disabilities. And we saw a special car for provision of social services, and we would like to buy such a car. And it is very important that we begin to cooperate with the project. And you know, we thought that we could do everything, that we got all the knowledge we need, but every day we need to learn new things. What could you advise to other communities, especially today after the platform has been presented? What advice could you give to other communities? Firstly, it is important that they choose right leaders of the institutions I mentioned. For example, the Center for Provision of Social Services. When there is no initiative and there is no wish to create such a center, this won't work. We have active people. They are following up. They are looking for new experiences and new knowledges and new opportunities. They react if they see something that is worth being created. And in some communications, we got many informations. We got many internally replaced persons in our community, and we needed an approach how to deal with such people. And sometimes our other countries asking us, why do we come so often, and what do we try to find in their experience in practices. But we try to support every family. If we see that a family faced difficult life situations, we try to help them, to help it. And we received much assistance from our Poland's colleagues, and we try to assess if there are a lack of food, a lack of medical treatment, and we try to, and then we can involve mediciners and other specialists to assist families in crisis situations. Thank you very much for your experiences, and I would like to tell once again about the name of the portal we are discussing now. This is a social education platform. We have many problems in this war period, but I think we have no right to stop. We need this for our future, and we need to make use of this opportunity. You can register there. You can get access to the platform, start your education, and this will move us towards our victory. And I thank you very much, and I think we will have other meetings about this portal and new experiences out of the use of this portal.